You know what's crazy? Most parents don't realize that the very thing they think will make their child smart before age 5, memorizing ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, is actually one of the least important parts of early development. And the even bigger shock, the real skill that turns a child into a confident, emotionally intelligent, resilient human has nothing to do with flashcards, worksheets, or perfect recitation. It's something far simpler, but far more powerful. And right now, while your child's brain is growing faster than it ever will again in their entire life, this one thing matters more than almost anything else. Imagine this: a 4-year-old who can sing the alphabet but shuts down when frustrated. A toddler who can count to 20 but melts into tears when plans change. A preschooler who impresses teachers with early reading but crumbles when another child takes their toy. So many parents proudly celebrate early academic milestones, but what we don't realize is that those achievements mean almost nothing if the child doesn't have the emotional foundation to navigate the world. Because here's the truth: a child's brain is not built on letters and numbers. It is built on relationships. It is wired through connection. It grows through safety, understanding, and emotional presence, not recitation. The shocking truth we don't talk about enough is that before age 5, emotional development is the real curriculum. Your child is not looking for academic stimulation, they're looking for emotional security. Their brain is literally shaped by the way you respond, the tone you use, how you handle their big feelings, and the signals you send about their worth, their safety, and their ability to exist in the world. And if this foundation is weak, it doesn't matter how early they can read or count, but if this foundation is strong, academics come naturally, easily, and with confidence because the brain was built for it. So what is this powerful thing that matters more than ABC and 1, 2, 3? It's emotional attunement, the ability for a child to feel seen, safe, soothed, and supported. It's the feeling of, my parent gets me, even when I'm messy, loud, frustrated, overwhelmed, or not performing. This is what builds self-regulation. This is what builds confidence. This is what builds secure attachment. This is what wires the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for focus, memory, emotional control, and problem solving. But here's the problem. Most parents are accidentally focusing on the wrong building blocks. We're rewarding performance instead of presence. We're rushing milestones instead of nurturing emotions. We're more impressed by a 2-year-old who can count than a 2-year-old who can cope with disappointment. And we usually don't realize what's happening until it shows up later. Anxious kids, frustrated kids, distracted kids, kids who shut down, kids who avoid challenges, kids who melt down when things don't go their way. Because if a child learns early that their worth is tied to performance, how fast they learn, how well they behave, how smart they look, then they grow up believing that mistakes are unsafe, struggle feels like failure, and pressure becomes their normal. But when a child grows up with emotional attunement, when they know they're allowed to have feelings, they're allowed to try, they're allowed to mess up, they're allowed to need help, they develop resilience, they develop persistence. They actually become better learners because their brain isn't in survival mode. They feel safe. And a safe child can learn anything. So let's dive into the truth about what kids really need before age 5. Not pressure, not perfection, not academic speed. What they need is connection, co-regulation, emotional safety, and consistent presence. The first thing children need is a parent who can help them regulate. Children are not born with self-control. They borrow ours. When your toddler melts down because their toast broke, it's not about the toast. It's about their immature nervous system being overwhelmed. What they need is not correction. What they need is your calm. When you meet their chaos with steadiness, their brain learns how to settle. When you meet their fear with reassurance, their brain learns how to trust. When you meet their frustration with empathy, their brain learns how to cope. These moments literally build neural pathways that become emotional strength later in life. And here's the wild part. Every time you emotionally attune to your child, you are doing something more powerful than any early learning program. You are wiring their brain for future success, emotional, academic, and social. Your presence is teaching them the foundation of emotional intelligence, which has been proven to be more predictive of life success than IQ. The second thing children need is exploration, not instruction. A toddler stacking blocks is learning physics. A preschooler playing pretend is developing language, creativity, and empathy. A child digging in the dirt is building sensory pathways. When children explore freely without pressure, they make connections on their own. Their curiosity becomes their teacher, and curiosity is the heart of intelligence. But when we rush academics too early, curiosity dies. Learning becomes performance, mistakes feel dangerous, and the child's natural love of discovery turns into fear of getting things wrong. The third thing children need before age 5 is emotional language. Toddlers don't have the words for their big feelings, so their emotions come out through behavior. When we give them labels, you're frustrated, you're disappointed, you didn't like that, you wanted more, we're not spoiling them, we're giving them tools. Emotional vocabulary is how children learn to understand themselves, and a child who understands themselves can eventually control themselves. The fourth thing children need before age 5 is attuned boundaries. Not harshness, not bribes, not punishments, not stop crying, calm down, or you're being dramatic. Children need boundaries delivered with compassion. I know you're upset and I'm right here. You can still not hit. I hear you don't want to leave. It's hard, but it's time to go and I will help you. Boundaries build safety. Compassion builds connection. Together, they build emotional resilience. And this emotional resilience becomes the fuel for all future learning. The fifth thing children need before age 5 is play. Unstructured, messy, creative play. Play is how the brain practices life. When a child plays, they're solving problems, negotiating, imagining, regulating, experimenting, and building confidence. Play is not a break from learning. Play is learning. But sadly, so many children today spend more time with screens, worksheets, structured classes, and pressure than actual play. When we replace natural exploration with academic drills, we're cutting off the exact process that builds real intelligence. And here's the truth. Academic learning becomes effortless when emotional development comes first. A child who feels safe learns faster. A child who feels understood listens better. A child who is emotionally regulated can focus, engage, and retain information. A child who is allowed to explore becomes curious, motivated, and creative. Now here's the part parents need to hear. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be calm 100% of the time. You don't need special training, special toys, special programs, or early academic knowledge. You just need to show up. You just need to be present. You just need to be willing to connect, to attune, to try again when things get messy. Your emotional presence is the most powerful educational tool your child will ever receive. And if you're thinking, but won't my child fall behind if I don't push early academics? Let me give you a truth that might completely shift your perspective. Children who develop strong emotional foundations often surpass early academic achievers by the time they reach elementary school. Why? Because their brain is ready. Because they're not learning from fear or pressure. Because they don't associate mistakes with shame. Because they know how to stay calm under stress, ask for help when needed, and persist through challenges. These are the skills that make a real learner, not memorizing facts before their brain is developmentally prepared. Let's talk about something that almost every parent experiences, but rarely understands: the pressure to compare. You see another child reciting all the planets or reading sight words, and immediately you worry. Am I doing enough? But here's the reality. Early performance often comes from memorization, not comprehension. It impresses adults, but it doesn't build long-term learning skills. Meanwhile, the child who is busy exploring, playing, expressing emotions, pretending, experimenting, and building social awareness is actually developing deeper, stronger neural connections. That child is building a brain that will thrive academically later, not temporarily impress at age 3. And here's something powerful. Research consistently shows that pushing academics too early can actually backfire. Children lose interest, their stress increases, their natural curiosity is suppressed. But children who grow emotionally strong are better learners because their brain is open, not locked in survival mode. That's why your presence, your emotional availability, and your ability to co-regulate are worth more than any early learning workbook. So what exactly does emotional attunement look like in everyday life? Let's go deeper. It looks like kneeling down to your child's level when they're upset, instead of towering over them. It looks like softening your voice when their emotions rise. It looks like acknowledging their internal world, even if their behavior doesn't make sense to you. It looks like holding a boundary without threats. It looks like narrating feelings instead of judging them. Emotional attunement is not about letting a child do whatever they want. It's about helping them understand what they feel and guiding them through it. For example, when your child melts down because you cut their sandwich wrong, attunement sounds like, "You really wanted it the other way. That was important to you. I get it. I'm here." Most adults would think, it's just a sandwich. But to the developing brain, routine and predictability feel like safety. When something small feels wrong, their nervous system spikes. Your calm is the medicine. Your empathy is the instruction manual. Your presence is the safety net. And over time, these tiny moments shape the child who emerges at age 5, 6, 7. A child who knows they can have big feelings and still be okay. A child who trusts their caregivers. A child who can move from chaos to calm. A child who has practiced emotional regulation thousands of times, not because someone taught them a lesson, but because someone guided their nervous system until it learned. Another thing that deeply shapes early development is how we handle mistakes. Not theirs, but ours. When you snap, yell, or lose your patience because you're human, what you do next matters more than the mistake. Repair builds trust. Saying, "I'm sorry I yelled. You didn't deserve that. I was overwhelmed and I'm working on it," doesn't weaken your authority, it strengthens the connection. It teaches your child that relationships can survive imperfection. It normalizes emotions. It models accountability. And when children grow up with repair, they become adults who don't fear conflict, don't fear failure, and don't crumble when things go wrong. This is emotional intelligence, and it begins long before a child knows the alphabet. Now let's talk about the power of presence. Before age 5, children are deeply sensitive to emotional energy. They don't just hear your words, they feel your tone, your stress, your availability. When you slow down, even for a few moments, you are giving them one of the greatest gifts, attuned attention. This doesn't require hours of play or constant entertainment. It can be as simple as sitting next to them while they build blocks, watching what they're doing, saying, "You worked really hard on that." It's moments of connection, not endless effort. Children remember how you make them feel, and those feelings sculpt the architecture of their brain. But presence also means something else, being predictable. Young children crave routine, rhythms, signals. This doesn't mean rigid schedules. It means emotional consistency. When your reactions are predictable, the world feels safe. When your boundaries are predictable, trust grows. When your love is predictable, the child's nervous system relaxes. And a relaxed nervous system is the foundation of every kind of learning, from language to problem solving to social skills. Now let's talk about play again,
because it's impossible to overstate how important it is. Before age 5, children learn through play, not as a hobby, but as a biological necessity. When they pretend to be a firefighter, they're practicing perspective taking. When they build a tower and it falls, they're learning resilience. When they negotiate roles with another child, they're developing social awareness. When they draw, color, or create, they're strengthening fine motor skills and imagination. No worksheet or flashcard can replicate this. No whirly reading program can replace the internal motivation and curiosity that free play builds. This is why emotionally attuned parents create space for unstructured exploration. They understand that the best learning environment is not one filled with pressure and comparison, but one filled with freedom, curiosity, and emotional safety. The final piece of this powerful puzzle is something we rarely talk about, but deeply matters: how children see themselves in your eyes. Before age 5, a child's identity is built almost entirely through the reflections they receive from caregivers. When your face lights up when they enter a room, they learn, "I matter." When you show patience with their struggles, they learn, "I'm capable." When you accept them in their messy moments, they learn, "All parts of me are welcome." When you celebrate effort instead of perfection, they learn, "I can try without fear." These messages shape self-worth, and self-worth shapes everything that comes after. So here's the truth parents need to walk away with. The early years are not about producing a genius. They're about raising a human who trusts, a human who feels safe, a human who has a strong internal compass, a human who knows how to handle hard moments, a human who can learn, explore, love, think, create, and thrive. ABC and 1, 2, 3 will come. Reading will come. Counting will come. School skills will come. The brain is wired for it when it's ready. But emotional development has to come first, because it is the soil in which every other skill takes root. You don't need pressure. You don't need perfection. You don't need to be a super parent. You just need connection, responsiveness, and compassion. Your child doesn't need early academics. They need you. They need your presence more than your performance. They need your calm more than your corrections. They need your empathy more than your expectations. And if they have that, their brain will grow, not just academically, but emotionally, socially, and psychologically stronger than you can imagine. Because in the end, the shocking truth is that before age 5, ABC and 1, 2, 3 don't build the child. Connection does, safety does, attunement does. And when you give your child these things, you're not just preparing them for school, you're preparing them for life.